There it is.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Talea Dindy, the Cancer Doula, and today we have the amazing Kelly U'Ren Moody joining us for Cancer, the fight of my life, but the future is looking bright. Kelly U'Ren Moody is an oral cancer survivor. After spending most of her career in finance, she began attending school in 2013 to obtain her certification in health coaching. Unfortunately, shortly after making this huge life change, she was faced with another huge life change, a cancer diagnosis, something that none of us want to hear. Today, Kelly will share her story with people all Today Kelly shares her story with people all over the world to provide hope and help to those who are facing cancer. She is a great example of how to face cancer head on. Kelly, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to hearing your story.
Thanks, Talea. I just want to say very quickly, I'm so grateful. I met two wonderful women through my journey. One is Kelly, the other Kelly, and one was you. And I'm so grateful for what you're doing. So having said that, I'll just jump right in. So what I'm going to do with everyone is just take you through before the diagnosis, through the diagnosis, through everything I went through. And then my main focus, though, is going to be um, what now? And cancer, what now? And I'll explain that later. It'll make more sense later. But back in 2008, I had just gotten a brand new dentist, and my other dentist quit dentistry, and I had to find somebody new. So my Scott's mom gave me the name of her dentist, and I began to see him. At my first appointment, he started feeling my neck and looking inside my mouth and feeling my jaw. And this is going to sound it's actually true, though. I didn't know what he was doing. And I said to him afterwards, "What were you doing?" And he said, "I was doing a cancer screening, an oral cancer screening." And he said, "Have you never had one of those done before?" And I said, Not that I know of. I mean, you just don't know what you don't know." And he said to me right after that, "Do you bite your tongue at night?" And I said, "I'm not sure. Why?" And he said, "Well, you have a small white lesion on the left side of your tongue underneath." And I said, "Oh, excuse me for a second. I have to take a drink. I'm sorry." And I said to him, "I don't know if I bite my tongue." And he said about the white lesion under my tongue. Now, I'm in a cancer group on Facebook, and I know people have said in the chats on there that their dentists have found white lesions, but they say to them a lot of times, "Oh, you probably bite your tongue at night. Let's not worry about it." Well, my dentist was very proactive that day, and he said, "Oh no, we need to get a biopsy." And when I used to hear the word biopsy, my immediate thought would be cancer, and that's where my mind went. Well, he said, I just want to be sure there's nothing going on." So I went and had the biopsy, and it turned out to be benign. Now, over the years after that, anytime that lesion would look different, it actually started to grow at kind of a rapid rate. It was getting bigger, and it was starting to form all over that side of my tongue. And anytime it would look different, he would send me for a biopsy. Now, they were all benign, and I'll take you up to 2013. That was a significant year for me. Um, again, well, I had actually asked at one point, why can't that white, the lesion, the patches of white all over, why can't that be removed? And my dentist said, we'd have to take a good portion of your tongue, and you probably wouldn't be able to talk. And so I never asked that question again, actually. Um, and so time went on, and in 2013, the lesions started to turn red, and it was starting to really not look good. So I went back to the oral surgeon and I had another biopsy. And this time, when I went back for the follow up, he called me into a room. It reminded me of a TV show where you're being told you have cancer. He kind of um, pointed his finger and said, "Come with me." And we went into a room with a desk and we sat down, and he said, "This time we just don't know if it's cancer. I have to send you to an ENT." And I I actually went into the parking lot. I remember it like it was yesterday. I went into the parking lot and actually called Kathy, who's here with us today, and I cried and I said, "Kathy, I might have cancer this time." And she talked me down off the ledge, so to speak, and she said, "I'm praying for you, but let's just take this one day at a time and you'll get through this, whatever happens." So the day after Thanksgiving, I went in early in the morning and I had a scan, and the doctor read it to me and he said, the ENT, he said, "It's not cancer this time, but it's a lot worse." So I was grateful, but I didn't know what was going to happen in the future. I just had to get back to living my life. And about a year later, I I was having some issues with a couple of loose teeth. And my dentist at the time said, "Well, we're not really going to worry about it. It could be your age." I was only 46 at the time, though, and I didn't quite understand that response, but there was really nothing until I believe it was a few months later. I woke up one morning and it felt like I had an abscess. The whole left side of my face hurt. My jaw hurt. I had a headache, which I don't get very many headaches, but my head was throbbing. And I thought, okay, well, I'll go see the dentist. So I called him and they got me in and he took an x-ray. And after he took the x-ray, he brought it in and he showed it to me. And under my very back tooth on the bottom, there was a very dark spot. And I think he knew already, but he couldn't really say yet. He said, "Oh, yeah, you need to get back to the oral surgeon. I'm going to call right now and you're going to go tomorrow morning." And he also said, "You're going to have that tooth pulled." And I said, "Well, can't we save my tooth?" And he said, "No, there's just no way." So I went, had the tooth pulled, had the biopsy. Well, about a week later, I still hadn't heard anything, which I thought might be a good sign. So I called the oral surgeon's office, and he finally got on the phone and he said, "Kelly, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but this time it's cancer." And, you know, that was I sat in the stupor for probably about an hour. I couldn't move. I didn't know what to do. But my mind at that time was like, okay, well, what do we do next? He did tell me I was to go back to the ENT and he was going to make an appointment for me to see him. I think Kathy, I think I may have called you first. I didn't even call Scott first. I never told him that, but I think I called you because I knew your voice is just so comforting to me that that's what I needed at that moment. I didn't know how he was going to react. When I called him, he just sounded like he'd been hit in the stomach. He didn't really say much. We didn't talk very long. But I went to see the ENT and he said, "We're going to have to do a surgery and get the cancer cells out of there." Well, during the surgery, they discovered that the cancer was under the tooth next to it. So he had to also take that tooth. And by that point, now you remember my tongue, that's where the lesion started. So that's where I thought the cancer would actually be. Well, he did find that there were some cancer cells on my tongue. So fortunately though, he only had to take a small sliver of my tongue. So it really didn't change the way I spoke or anything like that. But at that point I thought, okay, we're good to go. He didn't say remission or anything like that, but I thought, okay. And then you remember that I had become a health coach, and that following year, I actually had another CT scan. They discovered that they didn't get all the cancer cells. So they did one more surgery, and it was outpatient. Scott was with me, and when my doctor came in, he said, "Is she in remission now?" And instead of saying yes, he just gave a thumbs up, which I thought was odd. But then in hindsight, I thought, well, maybe if he had said that I was in remission and I wasn't, then what? So I understand it now, but life moved on, and I actually got a position as a health coach with a weight loss company. And of course, I never mentioned the cancer because there was no reason to. Um, but that summer, I started having some issues in the bottom of my mouth where the teeth were pulled, and it was becoming very sore again. And I knew something was wrong. So I asked my dentist if I could come in, and he said, "If you can come in now, we can see you." So I asked if I could leave work, and I went. He was only about 15 minutes from my work. So I went, and he looked back there and he said, "I don't believe that's a dental problem. When do you see your ENT again?" I said, "Well, as it so happens, I have a follow-up tomorrow." And he said, "Good." So I saw the ENT, and as soon as he looked back there, he said, "Yeah, we need to get another biopsy. I'm going to do it right now." And I almost instinctively knew. He said, "I will call you in 2 days." Now, Scott was out of town. He was in Atlanta, Georgia, so he wasn't even home. But I called and told him what was going on, and he said, "Please call me as soon as you hear anything." So 2 days came, and I told my boss, I said, "Listen, I have to take an important call. I can't miss it." And she said, "That's fine." So he called and he said, "Well, I'm just going to tell you that the cancer is moving again. It's in your jaw, and the way it looks now, you're going to need a partial jaw replacement. And unfortunately, I can no longer help you. I'm a little bit more limited in what I do. I am I'm going to refer you, and I'm going to make you an appointment with the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. That's our premier. I mean, if you have anything going on like this, that's where you go." And it was an appointment with a head and neck surgeon and a plastic surgeon. And Scott went with me, and they proceeded to tell us what the surgery involved would be involved. And they didn't mince their words. They said it's going to be an 18-hour surgery. Most likely, we'll do a partial jaw replacement. We need to replace bone and skin, and more than likely, you're going to be your own donor. So my leg, I have some bone taken out of the bottom of my leg and some skin up around the top of my leg. Um, they did what's called a free flap. And with that, it makes a new flap for inside of your mouth. And with that, though, they have to make sure that when they attach the skin um, inside your mouth, that there's blood flow. And for me, the concern was me being a type 1 diabetic. They didn't know how well this would work. And the other thing was the trach tube. So I had a trach tube in my chest for 7 weeks, and I couldn't speak. That was rather challenging. I knew what was going to happen, but I really didn't know, in that you never know even though people tell you, you never really truly know until you go through it. And that was rough. And Kathy saw me through, I wasn't able to talk, so her and I had to form a texting relationship. And I know her and my friend Erica came to visit me one day, and I was just in a bad frame of mind, and I all but threw them out. And as soon as they left, I sobbed and cried for probably a good straight hour because I threw my friends out. But I was just in such a bad, bad place. And in order to make amends to them, I had to text them, of course. But, being who they were both like, Kelly, please, we know what you're going through. I mean, we don't know, but we know. Um, so moving on after that. So I went from the hospital to a nursing home rehab where we began working on swallowing and trying to have better swallowing techniques. And walking around was important because I had that bone taken out of my leg, and you can still see it. I have my leg is kind of crushed in a little bit with some scars all over it, but it's healed better than I thought it would. But I did a lot of walking. And once I got out, then I got out in September. I'm not sure how long after that it was, but they wanted me to do radiation. And my radiologist was a really wonderful guy, and he explained everything. Now, he did tell me that radiation in the mouth is probably the worst place you can get it, and it was going to do a lot of things to my teeth that we had to prepare for, like fluoride treatments and seeing my dentist. I see my dentist still every 3 months, like clockwork. Um, but the radiation was rough. I didn't make it. I was supposed to go through 32 rounds. I only made it to 28. And I ended up in the hospital during the end of that because and I was working full time, but I had to go and have radiation every day. So I don't even remember how I did it, but I did it. And After the radiation, I went back to work. Now we're getting up near Christmas, and things at work were changing. Our business was slow, and just a lot going on there. And um, by January, I got laid off, and I went through a bit of a depression over that because I think work was a solace for me. Um, but life went on, and I found a job with a chiropractor as a health coach, but um, my cancer had other ideas. So I got this job, and hindsight being as it is, I realized that first of all, some more of my bottom teeth became loose, which wasn't a good sign. And I don't know if I was putting off the inevitable, but I kept thinking, I just want to move on with my life. Well, it got to the point where right after I took this job, I had been rapidly losing some weight. I wasn't able to eat much. I used to buy Glucerna shakes, and if I got through half of one in a day, I was lucky. That's all I could. And Eventually, I had to address the situation, and I got in touch with my doctors again. I got my plastic surgeon set up an appointment for me to go to the University of Pittsburgh again, to the dental school, and have them. He said, your teeth are going to need to be pulled, and they're going to do a biopsy. And that's exactly what happened. About a week later, my lovely cousin Renee came with me to see the plastic surgeon. And we waited for a long time in his office, and I could not figure out why it was taking him so long to come in and speak to us. And he finally came in, and he said, I apologize for the delay. I had to pull a head and neck surgeon out of surgery and bring her down to talk to you. And I knew right away. I knew it wasn't going to be good news. He said to me, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but your cancer is spreading again through your jaw, and it's now made it to lymph nodes in the the base of your skull on the left side and lymph nodes in your neck on the right side. He said it spread to both sides. And this isn't good. And I don't know what made me realize this time. I just had this sinking feeling. And I said to him, all right, out with it. Don't lie to me. You know me too well that you know I won't be lied to. I said, tell me how much time I have. He said, well, I'm going to tell it to you like this. He said, you probably realistically have, because it's made it to those lymph nodes, you know, those carry to other parts. That's what they do when cancer reaches your lymph nodes. And he said, you may have about 4 to 6 months. And I cried. And he said, if you do chemo, you may have possibly a year, possibly 18 months. To which I said, okay, what's the point? I'm gonna live for 6 or 8 more months and have to go through chemo. I said, I don't think so. I'm just gonna go home and, make my final plans and be done. He said, listen to me. I contacted a doctor that's an oncologist. He's they call them the best, but he said he's a premier doctor with head and neck cancers, um, with the University of Pittsburgh. And I really think it would be a good idea if you just go and see him. You never know. So I went to see the doctor. I liked him fine. He was very kind. And he said, please give this a try. You don't know. I mean, he said, some people respond, some people don't. And so I thought, well, it's my choice. I'm going to try it because, like I told you, at that time, I was 48, and I thought, I'm too young. I won't even get to see my stepdaughter graduate from high school or get married. And I have to try this. So we did chemo. It was grueling. I think Kathy went with me once or twice. It was awful. I got sick. I was 80 pounds at best. I couldn't eat. And I did lose my hair. I started losing my hair. So my hairdresser took me in steps. She was kind, and she shaved people's hair before that have gone through cancer, and I trusted her completely. Um, I noticed my hair coming out every day, not like in huge clumps, but enough that I was getting a bald spot on the top of my head. It reminded me of my dad back in the 70s. He used to do the comb over, and I thought, oh, no, I can't do it. I just can't. And so I went, Scott's mom went with me. She held my hand. I cried. And then after Susan, my hairdresser, was done, I said, why didn't I do this years ago? I love it. And Kathy knows, she said, oh, good, we can go wig shopping. And I said, well, not this girl. I think I kind of like this look. Um, so that's that. Now, the cancer or the chemo did quit working, and the cancer started spreading again. And this time I thought, you know what? I I'm done. I mean, I had already put my career on the shelf. I thought, well, I'm in retirement now, I suppose. And I told Scott, I guess, um, this this is this is this is it. But I do have to go back. There is one point I didn't mention. When I went home to tell him that what happened at the doctor's office, when he told me that I didn't have much time left, my cousin was with me. I don't remember the car ride home, but when we got out of the car, he saw the look on my face. I didn't even have to tell him. The tears, the gut-wrenching tears. I don't ever want to see that again. He cried so hard. He knew before I even told him. And then when I said, I don't have much time, I need to make my final plans and make a list of some things that maybe we could do together. He said, anything. We'll go away. We'll take a couple trips if you're okay with that. And I agreed. I wasn't even really thinking, but I rudely turned around and said to my cousin, "Go home." And she said, "Why?" I said, "Because I have to go in the bedroom and pack up all my things. I'm going to die." And she said, "Oh, Kelly." And I said, "I'll talk to you tomorrow." So I went in, took a survey of our bedroom, and I thought, well, nobody said you're going to die tomorrow. Why don't you put this on hold? And by that point, I was so physically drained, emotionally, physically. I got in bed, and I don't even know how long I laid there, but it seemed like hours. But then then the chemo quit working. Well, my doctor had one more trick up his sleeve, which was something called an immunotherapy. Some of you may know what that is. And what it is it's not really like chemo, although they infuse it kind of the same way they do with chemo. Um, but it's a little different. Chemo travels all through your bloodstream. And now the immunotherapy is more targeted, I believe, to your T cells. But what that also does is it um, it really suppresses your immune system. And me being a diabetic, that's not really a good thing. So a few months after the immunotherapy started, well, actually, what he asked me to do was a clinical trial with two different immunotherapies that were already on the market but had never been used together. And I really didn't want to do that because clinical trials are very stringent and what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. And I had a stack of papers to read that I would have to sign. And one of the things was you need to get biopsies on a regular basis, even though you don't need them, but they need it for their data. And there were a lot of other things that I just didn't feel comfortable with. And I said to him, I feel like I'm starting to become a lab rat. My body is worn out. And he said, well, will you consider just doing the one drug, which was called Opdivo? He said, it's not a clinical trial, so we can just put you on it. So that's what I did. Now, he decided to give my body a break from the immunotherapy because at that point, my weight was down into the 70s, I think, and I was just having a very hard time even standing on my own 2 feet. And he knew I was getting very sick. So he took me off of it and he said, we'll take a month or two off. Well, in that time, I started really getting ill. And what I mean by that is I didn't realize, but what happened is I started getting an infection from inside my mouth all the way down into my digestive tract, and it ended in my abdomen, and I got colitis. So I lost even more weight. At that point, I weighed about 73 pounds, and I checked into the emergency room because I couldn't keep anything down, not even water. And they didn't know what to do with me. They really didn't know what was wrong. And then Scott was going to come and get me like a week later because they said, we really don't know what to do. They put me on some things. My blood pressure was dropping at that point and I was fainting. And I had started fainting a couple years before that. I had a cyst removed from my chin and I had a big hole in my chin. They thought it was cancer and it wasn't, but the hole wouldn't close and they couldn't shut it because there wasn't enough skin. And at one point too, I had some hardware in my mouth to kind of hold my jaw up. Well, they said the hardware might last a year, it might last 10 years. Well, mine lasted about a year, and you could see the metal plate through the hole. Um, so they did their best to close that hole, but it took quite some time for it to heal up. But I began bleeding through that hole. I mean, there are so many things that happen that I could spend all day. But to the immunotherapy, the day Scott came to get me, I tried to get dressed, but I felt like I was going to faint, and I did, and I hit my head, and I ended up being between the hospital and the nursing home. I ended up being in for 3 months. I didn't get out till shortly before Christmas. Now, at this point, it was 2018, and they played around with medications. They had to get my blood pressure stabilized. I was retaining water. I mean, you name it, it was happening to me. And I couldn't walk. I got in bed the day Scott was to come and get me. I got in bed and I didn't get out of bed to walk for it had to be a good couple months until they got me up to do PT, and I couldn't roll over, I couldn't sit up. I relied on everyone for everything. If my phone wasn't right in front of me, I couldn't reach it. Even to turn the TV on was a chore. They had an adjustable bed, so that was easy for me to sit up, but they asked me if I had one at home, and I said, well, no, we just have a regular bed. And they said, oh, that might pose a problem. Well, I had to relearn how to stand up from the floor. I still have issues with that. I had to relearn to walk up and down steps. I still have issues with that, but every day, this brings me to after I got out and I surpassed the date they told me. If I did the math, they if I because I did the chemotherapy, and they said it could possibly be 18 months I would have. So that would have brought me to October of 2017. Now, I during that time, when October came, I thought, well, I'll give myself till Halloween. Why not? I'd already planned my funeral and planned the rest of my life, who gets what, and all that kind of stuff. But um, I remember waking up Halloween morning with a very uneasy feeling. And I thought, my friends and my family are going to think I've lost my mind, but I'm afraid the Grim Reaper is going to come get me tonight when I'm sleeping. And I couldn't sleep. I finally fell asleep and I woke up on November 1st and I went into the bathroom and cried tears of joy. I kept pinching myself going, I'm here. No one took me. Nobody with a mask or, any of that. It sounds funny now, but that's truly what went. Scott had no clue. He's in bed, he's sound asleep, and I'm in there crying my eyes out, going, thanks be to God. I just kept saying that over and over. Um, so I'll fast forward in the what now. And what I meant by that was when you're given a diagnosis that you're not going to be around long, you don't really plan for your future because you don't really have one. And I kept thinking, well, how am I going to say goodbye to my friends? And telling Scott that I was going to die was gut wrenching. I had to go and tell my mother. Now, why I say telling him was harder though was because my mom tends to put up a wall. Like, I didn't just hear that, and she'll act like it's not really happening, and that's her defense mechanism. So when I went and told her that day I don't have long, I don't really think she was grasping the what was truly going on. Um, but I kept thinking, what do I want to do now? And I knew it was not a good idea if I worked full time because my energy level was no longer there, and it still isn't. Currently, I'm going through a lot of side effects of radiation, and they've been really awful. I mean, there's just a list of them. But I didn't know what to do, and I don't know why, but I was reading up on blogging, and I read that you can join blogging groups on Facebook. So I joined one, and that's where I met Kelly. And what I did was I posted that I was looking for somebody to help me set up a website. I had been journaling, as you know, I mentioned that, and Scott said to me, you ought to turn that journal into a book. And for him to say that, I was surprised because I really think he wanted me to get back into health coaching. But I said, Scott, that's just not for me right now. I don't have the energy to do it. But I did. And then I started thinking, what would people going through cancer want to read? A book that, they may be going through treatment and not feeling well, and or would they like to just read a blog page that's about 900 or 1,000 words that might give them some inspiration for just one day. And Kelly did. Now she's gonna, I don't want to embarrass her, but she did an amazing job with my website. And not only did she do my website, but we talk every week. Every week. There's some weeks we can't, but for the most part, we've kept that schedule for a year. And Wednesday is probably my favorite day of the week. I love talking to her, even if there isn't much going on. And she knows I get tired and I don't always have the energy, but I do my best. And she's really inspired me to keep pushing, keep going, write that book. I'm writing it, and I'm actually talking to a potential editor later today, and I'm hoping that works out. I really like her, but Kelly is such an inspiration to me that she helped me to do more than I ever would have done. And if I have technical questions, which she knows I have a lot of them, um, she never makes me feel like I'm less than, or that was a really great, why would you ask that? She helped me set Pinterest up. I'm on Pinterest. I'm doing a lot of social media stuff that I would have never done before, but I do affiliate marketing, and these are things I never would have done. And she has taught me. And if she feels like she needs to do a video, she'll actually even make a video for me and send it to me that I can follow through what she's telling me to do, like with I'm starting a newsletter and those kind of things. And I'm so grateful for her friendship. I just want to say that. And Kathy, you've been with me from day one of this. And to Leah, to meet you and to help you, and you help me back with what you're doing. Um, and I met somebody new today. I met your friend today, and I'm glad she's here. And so that's what I'm doing now. I'm moving forward. It's not about making money. I mean, it is to a point, but for me, it's about who can I help today? And I learned all this through having had gotten that diagnosis. My favorite word now is gratitude with a capital G. That's why I call this my cancer journey, not my death sentence or not my, because I have learned so much from going through this that every day, no matter what it looks like outside, I am here, and if I can get up and do one thing or help one person or make their day by just saying, hey, I used to have friends that would say, I don't want to tell you what I'm going through because of what you're going through. And I would say, oh, we're not doing that. Don't play that with me. If you're going through something, you need to tell me because I care about you. And if I care about you, I care about what you're going through. And that's just how it is for me. So, I think I'm finished. I think I have, and we can, if you want to have questions, that would be great.
Well, Kelly, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story. I know that it will help and inspire so many people. Thank you so much for being an
Thanks,
open book.
Talia. Thank
And
you.
it's just an amazing story. I want to
Thank
encourage
you.
everyone to visit Kelly's blog at faceithheadon.com. Again, that is faceithheadon.com. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.